Chapter 37, Batgirl, Issue 3. Like most nights, a lone figure dressed in a peacoat stepped out of the 107.7 WWJD studio at a little after 11 p.m. His sermons wore on his throat particularly badly that day. A guest minister from Central City would be handling the bulk of the work the next day, so at least he'd have some time to catch his breath. Cameron Graham felt tired. It was time to get home to Rachel and get to bed so that he could help with the kids in the morning. Graham had never been especially wary of his surroundings. Maybe if his senses were better, he would have noticed the figure who covered half of the J in his studio's neon sign. But his mind was too full of distractions, mostly about entitled high school children, and how they wouldn't be so impudent if Christ hadn't been pulled from their educations. His fingers were on the handle to open his car when something whisked out of the sky and clanged against the side of the vehicle. Graham got only a moment to ponder it before a green substance erupted from within and sealed him in place. The radio preacher shouted and pulled against the green goo as the figure from the rooftop descended. "Great sermon today, as always," the figure said. "Sorry, you don't understand subtlety, so you probably wouldn't get sarcasm either." After the initial shock and fear passed, Graham's expression formed into a snarl. "What's this supposed to be? And here I thought you were the other one." Batgirl stepped into view. The bright purples of her uniform and blonde of her hair became clear. "No, but it'd be a lot of fun to see her take a crack at you. You do realize you're detaining me illegally, don't you?" Any fear in Graham's voice dissipated into mellow rage. Whether he genuinely wasn't afraid or masked it extremely well, Batgirl was not sure. "What are you here for? To tell me to quit dragging your boss through the mud? Because you're not helping your case." "My dad was a C-rank criminal who Batman beat the snot out of on a regular basis. You couldn't hate him half as much as my old man did." "Well, you'd better give me something to get this gunk off my hands and my car before you end up in a cell next to his." After some struggle, Graham slid a phone out of his pocket and prepared to dial. "You're just a kid, I can tell. Don't do something you'll spend the next decades regretting." "As much as I'd like to pound you for talking about my dad, something I'm totally allowed to do but you aren't, I've got a much more pressing concern." Batgirl stepped forward, and for just a moment, Graham shrunk against the car in fear. Faster than he could stop her, she grabbed the cell phone out of his hand and, thanks to his preemptive unlock, started to flip through his recent calls. "And they call me a fascist!" Graham tugged harder against the goo. "What in the world are you looking for?" "I know who you really are," Batgirl said. "I'm just giving you a chance to confess before I turn you over to the guys with the badges." "You're out of your mind," Graham said. "I don't know what you're prattling about, but apparently you know something about me I don't, so why don't you enlighten me if you think you're so wise?" "Victor Lipov," she enunciated every syllable. "And the Reapers, and Hive. Or whoever you were working for first." Graham's mouth slid open silently for a moment before he demanded, "What? I'm on to you. I know you're... What do those words even mean?" Batgirl paused. She hoped the exclamation came from being found out, not confusion. After a second, she resumed with her previous energy. "You know good and well who the Reapers are. You did a whole piece on your stupid show about how colleges are making kids liberal, and that's why they're criminals." "I'm on the air 5 days a week. Why don't I ask you who you were punching weeks ago?" Stephanie clenched her fists. She didn't exactly expect this to be an easy interrogation, but she hoped Graham would crumble as soon as she confronted him. She wasn't sure if he was ridiculously bold, or her blonde-haired, 5'10" frame simply wasn't intimidating enough, however hard she tried. "Whatever," she thought. "I can be stubborn too." "I guess you believe it's a coincidence that every time you throw one of your little temper tantrums, the Reapers pick a new target," Batgirl said. "I've been listening to the sermons on your website. You say something stupid about Muslims, they attack a mosque. You talk about gay people, they target a nightclub." "How dare you!" Graham's voice almost cracked as his face twisted with rage. You insolent child! Typical, maybe, but still brazen. I never once told my listeners to act in violence. I told them to act against it. I do remember those children now, so tell me, have you cornered and interrogated the people who built those suits of armor they're wearing? Batgirl said nothing, but the shakes of anger still moved through her body. Have you tried actually seeking the root of the problem? Of course not. You've decided to scapegoat it upon God's people. I'm a Methodist! It was almost a scream, and it came out when she could hear no more. I'm not blaming religious people, you freaking narcissist! I'm blaming you! There's over 24 people missing right now. All of the attacks in relation to stupid things you keep saying on the radio. Even if you aren't working for Lipov, are you telling me you don't feel a single shred of blame for that? My conscience is clear. Graham sounded like he almost spat the words. Take it up with the true wrongdoers. I came to this city to save people. Across the parking lot came a lurch and a shout of, "What's going on here?" from a security guard. Jackson! Jackson, thank goodness! Graham waved his free hand as he shouted, "Come quickly! I'm under attack!" Batgirl scowled in the guard's direction and muttered, "Crap." She turned back toward Graham, took a hold of his coat, and thrust him against the car. Listen to me. Despite Graham's shouts, she was still sure he heard her. I know you're part of this, and the second I can prove it, I'm taking you down. Hurry! The Bats sent a violent protester! Batgirl pulled him back and shoved him against the car again. Shut up! When he had stopped for just a moment, she spoke again. My best friend is a better Christian than you're ever going to be, and you dragged her through the mud. I promise you now, even if God forgives you for that, I never will. The thought of a single punch to his jaw crossed her mind, just for a last taste of catharsis. But the security guard was already rushing toward them and commanded her to freeze. Bruce would soon learn of this excursion, and she had no confession to present to him. She'd be chewed out for her impulsiveness, again, and she was trying her best to recover his graces after the bunker incident. A fight with a totally unrelated security guard who was just doing his job wasn't going to make things any better. Her bike was parked just out of sight. She made it there and escaped into the night before the security officer even reached Graham. The next morning, between her Bio 101 and rhetoric classes, Stephanie briefly paused at a gaggle of other students who stood around the TV in her dorm's communal space. She peered past the assembly and only gave it a momentary thought. Usually it was only something Batman-related that drew so much attention. If not for the brave work of the building security force, who knows what more she might have done to me? Stephanie froze. The speaker was obvious. There he was, being interviewed for the morning news. I want all the citizens of Gotham to know that the Batman and those in his employ came for me last night, but they could very well come for you tomorrow. The time has come to demand our rights back, to no longer live in fear. If the Bats and his underlings want to play God, I know someone who'll take serious, personal offense to their actions. Within seconds, Stephanie's cell phone buzzed to indicate she received a text message. Her heart sank when she confirmed it was exactly who she feared. Bruce, watch the news on Channel 13. Come to the manor as soon as you're off for the day. We need to talk. For all the trouble the ordeal turned out to be, and for how empty her hands were, Stephanie deeply regretted not getting that punch in.